Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a really significant area where medicine and market trends intersect, the global effort to treat critical limb ischemia, or CLI.
Right. And for you who might not be, deeply familiar, CLI is a very serious stage of peripheral artery
Oh,
disease.
yeah.
Exactly, PAD. Imagine the blood flow to your limbs becoming so severely restricted that it causes pain and, well, alarmingly, greatly increases the risk of amputation if it's not properly addressed.
Exactly. And to really understand the scope and direction of this vital treatment landscape, we've been digging into the Global Critical Limb Ischemia Treatment Market Report 2025 by Cognitive Market Research.
Hmm.
One number that just jumped out right away is the projection that by 2025, the global market for CLI treatment is expected to hit a massive USD 680 million.
Wow.
What does that kind of valuation tell us about the current state of CLI treatment and, well, the urgency here?
Well, it certainly signals a significant existing need, definitely. And what's even more compelling is the anticipated growth. The report forecasts this market expanding to, get this, USD 284.96 million by 2033.
That's not just a little bump, it's a considerable leap.
Yeah.
That translates to a compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, of 9.20% between 2025 and 2033.
Yeah, 9.20%.
Think of CAGR like, a consistent annual interest rate on an investment, allowing for steady, significant growth over time.
And that kind of sustained growth really points to a dynamic market. The report rightly emphasizes the increasing prevalence of peripheral artery disease itself as a major driver.
Right.
As more individuals are affected by PAD, the demand for effective CLI treatments is, well, naturally going to escalate.
Okay, so for this deep dive, our goal is to really pull out the most crucial insights from this report. We want to see the current shape of this market, understand its projected path, and identify the key forces shaping its future.
Let's do it.
Let's start with that big picture, the global market overview.
Mm-hmm.
We've already noted those impressive figures for 2025 and 2033 and that robust 9.20% CAGR.
Mm.
What other overarching details from the report give us important context?
Well, it's useful to know the timeline the report covers. Their baseline for calculations is 2024.
All right.
They also looked back at data from 2021 through 2024 to understand recent trends, and their projections extend from 2025 out to 2033. So that gives us a pretty solid perspective, on both the immediate past and the longer-term outlook.
Got it. Now let's zoom in on the different regions. The report gives a fascinating breakdown of market share in 2025 and the expected CBRs up to 2033. North America emerges as the largest market in 2025.
Right, dominant.
Yeah, holding a 37% share, which equals USD 2101.60 million, and is projected to continue growing at a steady CAGR of 7.6%. That's actually quite a bit lower than the global average CAGR we just mentioned.
It is, yeah. North America's established healthcare infrastructure and, unfortunately, the high prevalence of risk factors like diabetes certainly contribute to its current large market size.
Makes sense.
The slightly lower growth rate, while still substantial, might just reflect a more mature market compared to, say, other regions where healthcare systems are developing more rapidly.
Okay.
And looking closer at North America, the United States is, as you'd expect, a major player, accounting for USD 1658.16 million in 2025, with a projected CAGR of 7.4%.
But it's interesting, there are variations within North America. Canada, while a smaller market at USD 252.19 million in 2025, shows a notably higher projected CAGR of 8.4%.
Yeah, that's interesting. It suggests a faster pace of expansion there, maybe catching up slightly, or different adoption rates.
Have you?
And Mexico, with a 2025 market size of USD 191.25 million, is also looking at a healthy growth rate of 8.1%. So, while the U.S. holds the biggest slice, the other North American markets are definitely expanding significantly, too.
Okay. Moving across the Atlantic, Europe, second largest market in 2025, around 30% share, market size USD 1,647.20 million. Their projected CAGR is strong too, at 8.2%.
Still very solid growth.
Europe presents a fascinating picture, being the second largest market. Let's maybe explore some of the nuances within that region. Which countries are leading? Where's the most dynamic growth?
Sure. Within Europe, we do see varied growth rates. The UK, for instance, has a 2025 market size of USD 276.73 million and a, actually, quite robust, projected TUGR of 9.0%.
Higher than the U.S., yeah.
Germany follows closely with USD 326.15 million and an 8.4% CAGR. Then you have France and Italy with slightly lower but still significant figures. Russia and Spain also represent substantial markets. And it's also worth noting some of the smaller but still growing markets like Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland,
Yeah.
even Luxembourg, which has a notably high projected CAGR of 8.5%.
Interesting, Luxembourg.
Yeah. And the rest of Europe collectively also represents a significant portion, growing around 6.9%.
Okay, now let's turn our attention to a region that really stands out for growth potential. Asia-Pacific, or APAC.
Ah, yes.
They hold around a 25% market share in 2025, market size USD, 1,363.20 million, but their projected CAGR is the highest of all regions, a striking 12.0%.
12%, that's huge.
It really is. That's a significant difference compared to North America and Europe. What's driving that? Are there any potential challenges that might, temper that rapid growth long term? Or is this just sustained dominance and growth for APAC?
Well, the remarkable growth in APAC, that 12.0% CAGR, likely reflects a confluence of factors. You've got a rapidly growing and aging population gaining more access to healthcare, plus increasing awareness and diagnosis of PAD.
Right.
Now, sure, there could be regional variations in infrastructure and access that might present challenges down the line, but the overall trend suggests a significant unmet need being addressed and, frankly, substantial investment in healthcare in many APAC countries.
They're looking at specific countries.
China leads the way. 2025 market size, USD 572.54 million, impressive 11.5% CAGR. Japan and South Korea also show strong growth, over 10% CAGR each.
And then there's India, USD 136.32 million in 2025, but the highest projected CAGR within APAC at 13.9%.
13.9, that's a market really on the move.
Absolutely. Australia, Singapore, Taiwan, the collective Southeast Asia region all showing very strong double-digit growth rates too.
Sure.
Singapore and Southeast Asia are both projected over 12%.
Yeah, even the rest of APAC is looking at a substantial 11.8% CAGR. It's really across the board high growth there.
So it seems like it's that combination of demographics, rising disease rates, and increasing healthcare investment really pushing APAC forward.
Precisely. That seems to be the story.
Okay, shifting focus again. South America holds a 4% market share in 2025, size of USD 215.84 million, and a projected CAGR of 9.9%. Still very strong growth.
Almost double digits. Within South America, Brazil is the largest market, USD 92.38 million in 2025, with a healthy CAGR of 10.5%.
Over 10%.
Yep. Argentina also shows strong growth, actually the highest in the region at 10.8%. And countries like Colombia, Peru, and Chile are all contributing to this expanding market with KGRs around 10% too.
Okay. The Middle East also accounts for a 4% share in 2025, market size USD 227.2 million, and a KGR of 10.5%.
Another region over 10%. Saudi Arabia and the UAE are key players here, along with Turkey, Qatar, and Egypt, all showing significant growth potential, generally between 10 and 11% CJR.
And finally, Africa holds more than a 2% share, 2025 market size USD 124.96 million, projected CAGR of 9.5%.
Still strong growth there too. South Africa represents the largest market in the region, highest CAGR at 10.4%, followed by Nigeria, and the rest of Africa also showing steady growth around 8.7%.
Okay, that's a really comprehensive look at the regional landscape. Quite varied, but generally strong growth everywhere, especially APAC.
Definitely.
Now let's delve into how the market is segmented, the actual treatments being used. The report breaks this down into medications and medical devices. Starting with medication, which category currently holds the largest share?
So, according to the report, antiplatelet drugs are the dominant segment.
Makes sense?
Yeah, it's logical. These medications, like common ones, aspirin and clopidogrel, they're fundamental in preventing blood clots and improving circulation. They're often the first thing prescribed for people with CLI. First-line therapy.
Got it. And which medication segment is growing the fastest?
That distinction belongs to lipid-lowering agents. This class includes drugs like statins. Their increasing use is primarily due to the rising incidence of what's called atherosclerosis-related ischemia, the plaque buildup in the arteries.
Right.
These drugs help manage CLI by reducing cholesterol levels, which in turn helps stabilize those arterial plaques and prevent further blockages. As we understand their long-term benefits better, their use is becoming more common.
So managing the underlying cause more directly.
Exactly, focusing on long-term outcomes.
Okay, moving on to the device side. Which segment leads there in market share?
Vascular stents. That segment is currently the largest in the devices market for CLR.
Right, the little mesh tubes.
Exactly. They're crucial for physically opening up those narrowed arteries, restoring blood flow, and they play a vital role in preventing amputations in CLI patients. And advancements like drug-eluting stents.
The ones coated with medicine.
Yeah, coated with medication to prevent re-narrowing, and also bioresorbable stents, the ones that dissolve over time. They've significantly improved outcomes and boosted their use.
And what about the fastest growing device segment?
That would be the peripheral dilatation system segment. This category includes devices like balloon dilators and embolic protection devices.
What do those do?
Well, they're essential tools for widening narrowed arteries and preventing complications, like bits breaking off during minimally invasive procedures. And of particular note is the increasing adoption of drug-coated balloon dilators.
Ah, so combining the balloon with medication delivery.
Precisely. These balloons release medication directly into the artery wall during the procedure to help prevent restenosis, that re-narrowing of the treated artery. They're gaining a lot of traction.
Interesting. So we see established treatments like antiplatelets and stents holding the biggest share, but newer approaches in managing lipids, and these dilatation systems are really driving growth.
That sums it up well.
Now let's think bigger picture again.
Yeah.
What are the underlying factors fueling this overall market expansion? What key drivers does the report identify?
The report highlights several key ones. First, the aging global population. That's a big one. Older individuals are just more susceptible to vascular diseases like CLI. Second, the increasing prevalence of peripheral artery disease itself directly increases demand. And finally, the rising incidence of diabetes, a well-known major risk factor for both PAD and CLI, is also contributing significantly.
Okay. On the flip side, are there factors holding things back? Restraints.
Yes, a couple of key restraints are pointed out. The high cost of CLI treatment can definitely limit growth. That's especially true in regions with less developed healthcare systems or where insurance is limited.
Yeah.
Additionally, the stringent regulatory frameworks, getting new medical tech and therapies approved, that can sometimes create hurdles and slow down market expansion. Approval processes can be long and complex.
Right, the red tape. Looking ahead then, what significant trends are shaping the future of CLI treatment?
Well, one very noticeable trend is the increasing focus on minimally invasive technologies.
Less cutting, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Less invasive than traditional surgery, potentially leading to better outcomes, faster recovery, shorter hospital stays. Patients prefer it, doctors prefer it when appropriate.
Makes sense.
We're also seeing exciting developments in biologics and gene therapy. These could offer truly innovative treatment options down the road. Still early stages for many of these, but they represent a very promising direction.
So looking beyond just devices and drugs.
Right, looking at repairing or regenerating tissue, potentially.
It sounds like this is a pretty competitive market space then. The report mentions several key companies.
Oh, absolutely. It's highly competitive. You've got a mix of large global corporations and smaller, more specialized regional players. The report specifically mentions leaders like Abbott Laboratories, Medtronic Pilot, Boston Scientific Corporation, and Kundink, Philips, NV.
Big names.
Yeah, big names in cardiovascular care. They typically have broad product portfolios and are heavily invested in R&D, pushing those technological advancements.
And it sounds like keeping up with innovation and making strategic moves are crucial for companies here.
Precisely. Continuous innovation is key, developing better stents, more effective drug-coated balloons, exploring regenerative medicine. And we also see a lot of strategic collaborations, mergers, acquisitions, companies trying to expand their reach and bolster their R&D.
The report even gives some specific, quite recent updates on certain companies and technologies.
It does, yeah. In June 2024, Micromedical Solutions provided updates on their microstent technology. This is a very small stent, designed for use below the knee.
Ah, for those really small vessels.
Exactly. It's being evaluated in the European HEAL registry, 200 patients enrolled there,
Yeah.
and also the U.S. STAND IDE trial, studying it for chronic limb-threatening ischemia, has completed enrollment. Results expected early 2025.
So key trials to watch.
Definitely. They're really important for seeing how well this new device works in practice.
And what about Abbott? You mentioned them earlier.
Right, Abbott. In April 2024, they received FDA approval for their Esprit BTK system. This is really interesting. BTK means below the knee.
Okay.
And this system is a dissolving stent, specifically designed to treat blocked arteries down there in patients with chronic limb-threatening ischemia. It releases a drug, everolimus, to prevent re-narrowing, and then it's fully absorbed by the body within about 3 years.
Wow, it just disappears.
Leaves nothing behind. This is definitely seen as a significant step forward. Imagine, not having a permanent foreign object left in your artery. Potentially big benefits for patients long term.
A dissolving stent that's fascinating. And the report also touched on clinical trial insights, something called BEST CLI.
Yes. The BEST CLI trial results were highlighted back in November 2022, but they provided really crucial information about how best to treat chronic limb-threatening ischemia.
What did it compare?
It compared the two main approaches, surgical bypass versus endovascular therapy. That's the minimally invasive stuff like angioplasty and stenting.
Okay, surgery versus stent splints.
Essentially, yes. And a key finding was that for patients who had good quality veins available to use for the bypass.
So if they had the right plumbing available.
Exactly. If they had a good vein conduit, they actually experienced better long-term outcomes with bypass surgery compared to the endovascular therapy.
Interesting. So surgery isn't always second best.
Not at all. It really underscores the importance of a personalized approach. You have to tailor the treatment to the individual patient's specific condition, their anatomy, the quality of their veins.
So it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Yeah.
The patient's own body influences the best path.
Precisely. That was a major takeaway from Best CLI.
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground here in our deep dive. To bring it all together, what would you say are the most important key takeaways from this CLI treatment market report?
Okay, key takeaways. First, this is a large and rapidly expanding global market. That's clear. It's primarily fueled by more people getting PAD and diabetes, plus the aging population globally. Second, we're seeing notable differences in growth across regions, with Asia-Pacific really standing out for dynamic expansion.
Right, that 12% CAGR.
Yeah. Third, in terms of treatments, while antiplatelet drugs and vascular stents are the current workhorses holding the largest share.
The established players.
Right. Lipid-lowering agents and peripheral dilatation systems are where the fastest growth is happening. And finally, ongoing tech innovation, especially in minimally invasive techniques and these novel therapies like dissolving stents, are constantly reshaping how CLI is treated.
So the aha moments for me were definitely that strong growth in APAC, the continued importance of the basic treatments, but also the exciting progress in areas like dissolving stents, and that really crucial reminder from Best CLI about personalized treatment.
Absolutely. And for you, our listener, whether you're maybe involved in the medical field or keeping an eye on market trends or just curious about healthcare advancements, understanding these dynamics in the CLI market gives really valuable insights into how we're tackling a serious and sadly increasingly common health issue.
It certainly does. And it really makes you think, doesn't it? As these minimally invasive procedures and these innovative therapies like dissolving stents continue to advance so quickly, what might the treatment landscape for critical limb ischemia actually look like, say, 10 years from now?
A decade out.
And what kind of impact could those changes have on patient outcomes, on healthcare systems globally? Definitely something to consider. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.